All right, folks, so we are back in the shop. I'm going to do another bow building video today, kind of a follow-up to the one we did last where we built this hickory flat bow. So just as a recap, this is a hickory bow. It was built from a tree, a small diameter stave. It's 64 inches overall, and the bow that we ended up with pulls about, probably, I didn't put on a scale, but it's probably around 60 pounds at 28 inches or so. We did do a heat treat on the belly, which helps hickory a lot and a lot of the other whitewoods. And we put it on a back set form, which you'll see here again in a minute. And the bow right now, it's holding about 2 inches of back set. Now, the bow as it is right now is pretty nice. It shoots fast, it shoots hard. I like the bow, but I want to take it one step farther. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to fire harden the belly of this bow. Now, I've only tried this once, and this was, I think, last year. I did a video, some of you may have seen it, where we took a live green tree and finished the bow completely out in 24 hours. So we cut this tree, roughed it out, force dried it over a fire overnight, and then finished the tillering the next day, and then fire hardened the belly side. Now, the fire hardening process worked, although I kind of screwed it up. I basically charred sections of the belly. Somehow still came out with a functional bow, which is not really a testament to my bow building ability, but more so the durability of elm, which that bow was made out of. Hickory is another very, very tough, very durable bow wood. So we're gonna give it another go. Now, in the last video, I basically just dug a trench, built a fire in there with some hardwood and let that burn down to coals. In this video, we're gonna use charcoal briquettes because I feel like I can get a lot better control over the heat distribution with briquettes. Now, it's kind of a windy day. We've got a storm coming in, so it might start raining. The humidity's pretty high. And so what I've done is I've got some cinder blocks over here kind of tucked in behind a wall, hopefully out of the wind as much as I can get. I went ahead and took a bag of matchlight charcoal, divided into 2 different piles at each end of this this trench that I've built with these cinder blocks. They're burning down right now. I'm gonna wait for those to get perfect down to coals, no flames. I'm gonna rake them out from the ends to the center, and then we're gonna try to fire harden the belly of this bow. Now I'm gonna clamp it back into my, my back set form that I've got here, and hopefully come out with a bow that's top notch. But we'll see. This is trial and error for me. I do not have this figured out, but hopefully we're gonna learn something today. Now, I first heard about this fire hardening method from a video that Keith Shannon and Thad Beckham did. I think it's on Thad Beckham's channel, so go check that out if you haven't already. But they are, according to them, they're seeing some pretty amazing results with whitewood bows and some woods that wouldn't typically be thought of as good bow woods. Things like sweet gum. And so I was intrigued by the method. I thought I'd give it a try. Like I said, I gave it a try once and it worked out pretty good, but I want to see if I can get it a little bit better dialed in on this one, and see if we can get this hickory bow to match some of my best Osage bows. So let's give it a try. So we're gonna stick here. We're gonna check this thing about every 10-15 minutes. Just making sure we're not getting any like areas of the limb that are getting more heat than the others. And so we'll probably end up flipping it just in case we get a hotter side. You know, one side's hot and one side's cool. I don't know. Don't have any way to measure the temperature other than just to look at it. And it looks pretty even right now, but we're gonna keep an eye on it and probably keep it on here for, I'm guessing, about an hour or so. But what Keith said is what you're looking for is you're looking for a color change on the side of the bow. You're looking for it to get the color to be I'd say a minimum of half the limb. That's hot, holding your hand right there. Minimum of about half the depth of the limb. So we'll see. This is all new to me. All right, so this thing has been on here for 15 minutes. I'll pull it up and just check and see what we've got. Starting to get a little color change on the inside right in here. That might actually have been left over from when we did the heat tree. It's hard to really tell, but I'm gonna go ahead and flip it around and stick her on there for another 15. All right, so it's been on here another 15 minutes or so. You know, I don't think it's quite hot enough. I think what I'm gonna do is lower these, I'm gonna flip these bricks. I'm gonna set this right over here for right now. And then I'm gonna lower this thing down, get it a little closer to the coals so you can see it. Doesn't really look any different than it did before. So it's been on there for 50 minutes. I don't know. I'm gonna let it sit on here for the hour. I'm gonna pull it off in another 10 minutes and then just try to see if I can look at the sides of the limb and see if this heat is penetrated. I don't know. We'll see. We may end up having to do this again. I'm having Liz pick up another bag of charcoal. So we may end up cooking this thing again and just getting a little bit more aggressive with it. But like I said, we'll see at the end of the hour what it looks like. So we've definitely got some color change on the belly side, but it's hard to tell how far it's penetrated into the limbs. All right, folks, so I think we're gonna give this fire hardening another go. There's a little bit of color change on the belly, but I can't see on the sides of the limbs. I can't see that heat has really penetrated the limbs. There's no real change in color. And so I think I was a little bit too cautious on the heat, and so I've got the charcoal lit. It's burning down right now. I'm gonna go ahead and just clamp this back to our form and just basically give it another go and get a little bit more aggressive with it. See if I can't get that heat to penetrate on down into these limbs. All right, so last time I did this, I had these blocks stood up on the end, and so this base where it was sitting on was probably 6 inches higher. So I've got it much closer to the coals this time. Just gonna monitor it just like we did last time, keep flipping it, turning it around, monitoring the belly to make sure we're not getting any hot spots. And we're gonna see if we can't push that heat farther up into the limbs, getting a little bit more aggressive with the heat this time. All right, so let's see what we got. It's been 10 minutes. That thing's hot. Definitely seeing some darkening of the limbs, and it looks pretty even. I'm gonna go ahead and flip it around, put it on there for another 10. Sitting here responding to some comments. I put a post on the community tab there over on YouTube the other day. I got a comment from Airshad who had suggested that I make the bottom of my trough here kind of mirror the contour of the bow, so more of a U shape. And I think I recall Keith Shannon saying something about that, but I really appreciate that reminder. And so I did that. I went ahead and took some of the dirt from the middle and scraped it to the ends. And so now I have kind of a dished out shape in there, and hopefully that'll bring the coals on the ends a little bit closer, and then the ones in the middle a little bit farther down, help distribute that heat a little bit better. But I think the big difference here is just getting that bow lower and down closer to those coals. But you can definitely see a color change only 10 minutes in. So we're gonna keep a close eye on it so we don't overdo it. I think we're on the right track. 20 minutes. Oh yeah, that's looking good. It looks like the bottom limb's getting more heat for some reason. I don't know if you can kind of see that. See how this limb right here seems to be a little darker than this one. Might just do this. Get that one a little bit closer to the heat. See if we can't even out that color. That's looking good. So I think I'm getting a lot of heat kind of down mid limb here. I think what I'm gonna do is scrape more of the coals in to get a little bit more on the fades and push a little bit towards the tips. The tips are not really changing much. If I can get the light right, you can see that. But I'm gonna redistribute these coals a little bit. Oh yeah. Scorched my handle a little bit. That's all right. That's looking really good. That's evening it out quite a bit. The problem I'm seeing, or really not seeing, is the color change on the sides. In talking to Keith, he says that if you wet it a little bit, you should be able to see a color change coming up the sides of the bow to tell you how far through the limb the heat is penetrating, and I just can't see that. So I don't know. So these coals are pretty well burned down. There's still a little bit of heat coming off of them, but it's they're pretty cool. I can hold my hand down there no problem. Looks very nice. I mean, I guess I can see a little bit of where it's coming up the side. I can definitely see it on this side, but it's very, very slight. But according to Keith, it's really the time that it spends on there. And I've probably, with what I did yesterday and what I did today, it was probably on there for close to 3 hours. I think I really want to finish this bow today, and so I know I'm gonna take a risk here, but I think what I'm gonna do is just take a damp rag, wipe it on the back, let it sit for maybe an hour, and then I'm gonna try to come back and tiller this bow out. Keith's recommendation is to do that, let it sit overnight, kind of let it rehydrate a little bit, because right now this wood is very, very dry. I'd be very surprised if you stuck a moisture meter, which I don't have one here, but if I stuck a moisture meter in the back, I doubt it would even register. I know it's going to be less than 5%. But we're going to try it. I have no idea if it's going to hold together. It may explode, but I'm willing to take that risk and just see what happens. But we're gonna give it a try. Looks nice. Smells good. All right, so I just took a shirt here and wet it and wrung it out, so it's pretty damp. I'm just gonna wipe this on the back and the sides. That water really makes the color stand out. Nice chocolate brown. Yeah, it's very, very light, very lightweight in hand. But, all right, so I'm just gonna set this here. It's about noon right now. We'll come back a little after 1 maybe and see if we can get this thing to hold together without exploding. See if we can get it back braced and then tiller it back down to somewhere in the mid-50s. It's been probably 2 hours since I pulled this bow off of the coals. Now, what I'm about to do is not recommended. I could very well break this thing, but if I do, then I'll know not to do it again next time. So I'm just gonna start with a loose string. Even though this bow is already tillered out, I'm just gonna go back to a loose string because when I finished this bow off, it was really too heavy for me. It was probably 60 or maybe even a little above 60 at 29. And the fire hardening, I know, will have raised that weight even more. And so I'm gonna go ahead and just stick it up here, pull it down a little bit, and see if I can see any kind of imbalances that the fire hardening may have introduced to it. And remove, if I do, I'll remove any wood or remove wood from the stiff areas and try to lower this weight down a little bit before I get a short string on this thing, just to try to avoid stressing the wood any more than I have to. It will be a spectacular explosion, perhaps. All right, let's see what she does. Zoom in a little bit. I like the profile. And she is heavy. I think we can get a short string on there. So we'll go ahead and take it off here, see if we can get a short string on it. So you can see right now we've got, if I put this thing up to the wall, so I've got a ruler here, and right now we are sitting at 3 3/8 right at the arrow shelf right here. So I want to see how much of that we can retain. Now with just the heat treat on this thing, I was after shooting it and leaving it set overnight, it was sitting right around 2 inches of back set. So I'm gonna see how much more we can retain with the fire hardening. There we go. That sucker on there that time. Okay, so I think we've got more positive tiller than we did, which makes sense. I mean, the bottom limb, it looked to me like the bottom limb was getting a little bit more heat than the top limb, and so we may have gotten a little bit harder on the bottom. So what I'm gonna do is just go ahead and take a little bit off the bottom side, try to even this tiller out a little bit. And what I'm talking about more positive tiller is, you can see, you should be able to see that on the camera, our gap from the belly to the string here is quite a bit more than here. Now a little bit of positive tiller is, for the type of bows that I make anyway, is what you want, but this is excessive. That's probably, I don't know, 1/2 inch more. So we'll take out a little bit here, even that out, and then put it up there and give it a little pull. I think, looks like I might even have just a little bit of a stiff spot right here. So I'm gonna just take my pocket knife and just do a little tillering with the string on it. And that wood is pretty where it's got that char on it. So take a little bit off, just like with a regular tiller, and take a little bit off, put a little bit of stress on it. What you don't want to do, and I've mentioned this in other videos before, is but if you've got an imbalance in your tiller like that, what you don't want to do is just start scraping and keep scraping until it evens things out without stressing it. Because if you do that, you're actually going to take the strong limb, make it the weak one, and then you're going to be chasing your tiller back and forth. But that already looks better. So it looks like the bottom limb maybe still just a little bit on the stiff side. Looks like this one's rounding out a little bit more, so we're about a little over an 1/8 positive. I might, with this bow, I might shoot for more of an even tiller. I'll just take just a wee bit more off that bottom limb. It just looks a little stiff on the tillering rack. .28. All right, so we've made it to 28 inches. I just want to pull it by hand and see what kind of weight we've got. I don't have my scale down here, and so loosen the whole shoulder up. I'd say we're still probably a little on the heavy side. That's 29 inches right there. That is pretty amazing that you can cook a bow like this, take it basically straight off the fire and tiller it out. Now here comes the real test. I'm gonna unstring this thing and see what kind of profile pops back to. Got my big loop on the bottom. Not as good as I was hoping for. So we're probably 1.25 inches of immediate back set. But I'm thinking overnight it'll probably come back to 2.5 or so. It's already coming back. All right, so it's been, I don't know, 20 minutes or so since I unstrung this bow, and it's already back to about 2 inches of back set. I think, you know, if I let it set overnight, it'll probably come back to almost what the original profile was, which was, I think we had 3.5 inches of back, or 3 3/8, something like that, 3.5 inches of back set. It wouldn't surprise me if this bow came back to 3 inches of back set overnight, but it's not, I didn't get the results that I was hoping for. I was hoping that when I unstrung this bow, it would immediately pop back to 2.5 inches of back set. So I think I think I was just a little bit too cautious with the heat. Didn't get it quite hot enough or long enough to get that heat to really push into the limbs. So I really want to figure this out, not only for myself, but for everybody out there who could benefit from these techniques. And so I think what I'm gonna do is later this month, if I can swing it, I think I'm gonna try to drive up north and spend a couple of days with Keith and Thad and spend the time with the guys that really know this process so that I don't have to keep trial and erroring this thing. I'm gonna go up there and try to get it figured out from the guys who really know what they're doing. I'm gonna take this bow, I'm gonna let them look at it, and then I've also got a little Hickory paddle bow that's, I think, 62 inches. I'll take that up there. We'll fire harden that one, I believe, and then I'll let them look at this one and maybe even redo this one and see if we can't get this bow to hold some more of this back set that we put in there on our form. So more to come on this. So I'm going to be going up there, and so if you guys have questions that you want me to ask or you want to address in any videos that we make while I'm up there, leave them in the comments and I'll try to get to you know, whatever I can. There's a lot to learn on this. So with that, appreciate you watching, and we'll see you guys on the next one.